typically will do entry. There's some that do, specialize in breaching, some specialize in grenadiers, and then we also have the snipers. So I was cross-trained to do the regular basic entry officer stuff, as well as I became a sniper, and eventually I became a sniper instructor.
Okay, so what kind of training did you have to go through to become a sniper and sniper instructor?
So the sniper training was a basic 40-hour course. I attended that with the FBI. And as time progressed, I would attend advanced sniper trainings so that I could enhance my skill set. And eventually, after having been on as a sniper for a while, I attended a 40-hour sniper instructor course.
Who is that with?
That was with the American Sniper Association.
As a trainer for snipers, what did that entail?
It entailed having to have a good working knowledge of the actual job, the ballistics that the rifles need to perform, knowing how to train new snipers, knowing how to keep snipers that have achieved certification to keep their skill sets up, and to keep meeting the mandates of what would be expected of a police sniper.
Did you ever become a shooting reconstruction expert?
I did.
Can you tell us, what does that mean?
It means that I attended a course. It was a 40-hour course where it was completely hands-on. There was classroom, a lot of hands-on with you not only see the results of different impacts and things like that, but you watch it happen, and then in some cases you actually get to make it happen. And then after that, you, as a class, you work together, putting things back together. And at the end of the 40 weeks, there is a test that you have to pass to get certification.
You said 40 weeks?
Or, sorry, 40 hours, sorry.
So what does, I guess, shooting reconstruction mean, if you had to explain that to us?
It means being able to take information from a scene and being able to put it together to reconstruct as best as possible or humanly possible what happened. For instance, you have bullet strikes. In some cases, you can actually get a good angle or ballistics information so that you can backtrack it and get an approximate area where the shooter had to have been. In many cases, you can help articulate whether information given to you was factual or if the information given to you was not. And this is very handy when there are no witnesses and you only have basically the person saying what happened.
Is there any type of certification process to be a shooting reconstruction expert?
Yes, at the end of that course, I had to successfully complete a test in order to get certification.
And when did that occur?
That was in, I believe, early 2017.
Who is that through? Who puts that on?
It was with Michael Haig, his company.
Who is Michael Haig?
He is part of a duo, father-son duo, that have become quite renowned for their ability to do ballistics and then teach it and train other people with it.
Okay. And have you utilized those skills that you learned in that shooting reconstruction course as a detective since then?
Yes, many times.
I assume you passed the certification test?
I did.
Okay. So on July 11th of 2019, were you working as a detective at that time for the homicide unit at the Chandler Police Department?
Yes, I was.
During the weekdays, what were your, I guess, work hours normally?
My normal work hours were Monday through Thursday, about 7 to 5.
When you are working as a detective, we've heard a patrol is out driving around. What are you guys doing?
Well, we carry a caseload. So many times we are working on the cases that we've taken previous days or weeks ahead of time. We're trying to come to a conclusion for those particular cases. But many times we also will have our radios on, just kind of listening to what's going on.
So are you at your office is at the main police station?
Correct.
Okay. On July 11th of 2019, did you hear some police radio traffic of a shooting at 5531 South Four Peaks Place?
Yes, I did.
Did you respond to the scene?
After collecting some equipment and putting it in my vehicle, yes.
Is that normal then for detectives with homicide to go out to the scenes?
For the unit at the time, yes, it was.
Can you describe for us what the scene looked like when you arrived?
There were police vehicles around. There were officers that had established a perimeter. Some crime scene tape was already put in place. And they basically had frozen the scene.
Do you recall about how far away this scene was from the station where you were located?
15, 20-minute drive.
When you arrived there, were other detectives arriving? How does that work?
There were several of us that had self-deployed, and we were in various stages of being on our way there. So other detectives did arrive.
How do you decide which detective is going to do what at a scene when you all just show up there?
Well, a lot of times it's just a matter of who speaks up first saying, I'm going to take case. If it's after hours, then the person that's on call will usually be the person to do it. But if it's during regular business hours, it's kind of like a little wrestling match to figure out who's going to end up taking it.
What role did you get?
I got assigned the scene.
Okay. What does that mean to be assigned scene?
So the scene work, assigned scene, means that you're responsible for making sure that the scene is processed properly, accumulate whatever evidence is necessary, report back to the actual case agent your findings so that they can stay aware of how things are transitioning and being learned, and then they can start making informed decisions on what the next step is going to be.
Do you do that alone or do you have help?
It depends on the scene. In this particular case, I had Detective Duncan along with me.
And does Chandler Police Department have any crime scene specialists or people that come up to help as well?
Yes. When I left the crime scene officer program, they had actually started a civilian program so that they could free up the officer's responsibility. So Chandler has several crime scene techs that will respond out when called.
And was someone called out to that scene?
Yes.
Do you sort of, as the scene agent, help, I guess, tell them what to do? Are you the person who's overseeing the whole scene?
It's more of a collaborative effort. We do provide direction on things that we're specifically interested in, but I've worked with them for many years, so it's pretty easy for us to just understand some of the basics that have to be done, such as overall photographs. Before we even think about manipulating anything or marking anything, we want to try to capture the scene as it was that we walked into it.
As the scene agent, did you create a diagram to just reflect what the scene looked like?
Yes.
And is that to scale?
It's not to scale. It's close, but it's not to scale.
Your Honor, if I can have my paralegal approach with Exhibit 5. And I think there's a second page in there.
It is behind, but it's not exposed to the back. Yes.
And is that the sketch and then the second page measurements of that diagram that you made?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 5.
Any objection? If it's not to scale, I don't know how it will be helpful, but no objection.
All right, Exhibit 5 is admitted.
And if I may publish.
Go ahead.
There we go. Hold on. That's not lit up. Well, we might use the one behind you.
Right.
All right, can I have the detective? Oh, never mind. There you go. Okay, so this is Exhibit 5, the first page. Is this sort of an overview of the entire residence as well as the items of evidence that you collected?
That is correct.
So we understand where we see these little yellow placards. What do those indicate on your diagram?
On this diagram, they indicate the items of evidence for that particular room.
Okay. And do they each have a number associated with them?
Yes.
And is the second page of your diagram a reflection of what each of those numbers refers to?
Yes, it is.
We see in this A, B, and distances. What is that?
So the reference points, for this particular purpose, we did a triangulation method. So we take measurements from 2 known points in that room, and then we measure out to the item of interest. And then that was how we get a point A and a point B measurement.
All right, so at the first page here, that's the actual diagram. What is the reference points that you are using to make these distance measurements?
So the reference points are not depicted on this diagram, but in this particular room, if you look at the wall where items number 2 and 12 are, the upper or the left upper corner is B, and if you go straight down towards the kitchen area, that along that wall, that corner is A.
Okay, so when we see a reference measurement from A of 21 feet to the bat, we're talking 21 feet this way should be where the bat was?
No, you're talking 21 feet from that corner, straight line to the bat.
Okay. So whatever the closest measurement or closest way to get there would be?
Correct.
So for the bat, it would be something like that?
Correct.
Okay. And then when we see reference point B for the bat, then you're talking from this point to the bat?
Correct.
Okay, just so we understand that. When Chandler Police Department goes to a scene like this, do they utilize any type of photography system to help better document a scene so that you can see things more clearly sometimes than with photographs alone?
Yes, depending on the scene, we would use a system called the Lizard Q.
What is Lizard Q?
It's, in essence, a 360-degree photographic system that you set up on a tripod inside or wherever your location is, inside, outside, and you start the process, and the internal computer for this system specifically takes a set number of pictures where it's overexposed all the way to underexposed, and the images in between, and it does this at various locations along the path to create enough overlapping images, and then those images are stitched together and actually create a 360-degree sphere of the scene.
Did you have to get trained on how to use Lizard Q?
There was some training involved, yes.
If, again, my paralegal can approach with Exhibit 139, you can take a look at that.
Okay.
You recognize a thumb drive that is in Exhibit 139.
Yes.
What is on that thumb drive?
On this thumb drive will be the Lizard Q spheres.
Okay. And is there a reader on there so that you can actually view it?
Correct.
There's a piece of paper in there as well. What is that?
The piece of paper is a set of instructions on how to use the Lizard Q viewer so that you can view the spheres.
Okay. And did you initial the thumb drive to indicate that you had viewed it and you recognize that as the Lizard Q that you created on July 11th of 2019?
I have,
Or did you actually create that?
I created the thumb drive.
And that's your thumb drive that you put it onto?
Yes.
All right. State will move to admit Exhibit 139.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
139 submitted.
Judge, at this point, might I ask the witness to come down here to utilize the Lizard Q? I can sit at the table, but it needs to be put into a computer to do that, and I don't think we can hook it up there. All right, so if you can insert that on that laptop on there. Yeah, thank you. I'm sure I might have to log in. I just might have to log into my computer, sorry. Oh, no, sorry. I will let you from there. All right. Can you talk us through, so you've opened the thumb drive to where that's at. How do you get to viewing this program?
So first, you'll have to double click on
Hold on, one sec, I'm sorry, we're waiting for it to. Yes, the USB is in that laptop up there on the podium. There. Yeah.
So first you need to double click on the lizardqviewer.exe so it can open it up. And then it's going to ask you where to look for the spheres. That's going to be D. And then you just double click on the sphere you choose to open up, and it will open it up for you.
Can you make that larger so we can?
I'm waiting for it to respond.
Got it. Okay.
So once you have the sphere open, you want me to just?
Yeah, if you can just tell us how to work that first, and then we'll ask a few questions.
So once you have the sphere open, if you depress the left mouse button, you can actually move the images around. Without depressing the mouse button, you can zoom in and you can zoom out with the scrolling wheel. If you depress the right mouse button and use the scrolling wheel, this will darken or lighten your sphere. It will give you the ability to look outside as opposed to just the photographs washing it out normally so you can see inside. With this particular program, you can open up multiple windows, but you'll really only be able to view one at a time, but you can go back and forth between them.
So for this sphere that we're looking at, we see Charles Vallow there, correct?
Yes.
And then there's some white cards that we see around the room. What are those?
Those are 3x5 cards that officers have dropped in the scene. A lot of times they'll do that to help identify to detectives items that they observed and to be a warning to other officers to watch out for these items as you're either moving through or exiting the scene.
Is the Lizard Q program then used prior to the scene being documented? And let me say this. We saw in your diagram, Exhibit 5, that there were little yellow placards or numbered items. Is that something that's actually done in the scene? So we were looking at the bat, for instance.
Correct. So in this particular moment in time, we just merely left it with the placards there. Again, it was attempting to capture the scene as we as an investigative unit found it. There can be times that we'll do this first and eventually go through putting evidence placards down and then maybe do another sphere showing all the evidence placards.
So would it be fair to say that this is done to document the scene prior to police going through and having, maybe digging through areas to find potential evidence?
Right. It's much like when we do overall photographs with the 35 millimeter camera. This is just another enhancement of that.
For this room where we see Mr. Vallow, do we have two different spheres?
Yes, in this particular room, I did a lower sphere, and then I raised it on the tripod that you can see in it to another height, and then I did a sphere there. So we have a program that we can combine those and make it a measurement sphere. So we could do measurements linear, but not to and from the camera because of its limitations.
So what is provided here is without measurements?
That is correct.
Okay. And without anything being marked yet?
Aside from the 3x5 cards.
Can you show us the lower level sphere as well?
This is the lower level.
Okay, then the upper level one, sorry.
As you can see, your point of view has changed a little bit, but the room has remained the same.
Okay. And that's all using the same initial placement of that tripod, but just moving the camera height up higher or lower?
Correct. The tripod has the ability to elevate to the platform that the camera is actually on.
All right, thank you. Your Honor, could I have the witness go back to the?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this for now. So, although that documents what the scene looked like that we saw prior to the marking of evidence, as a scene agent, do you still utilize photographs?
100%, yes.
Why?
It's just an added fail-safe. The lizard queue can, if you do the lizard queue, then you're restricted to just the view from where that camera is at. When we do overall photography, we actually move around and get it from different perspectives. This is just another tool in the ability to show what the scene looked like.
Did you also photograph rooms where the lizard cue was not used?
Yes.
When you photograph a scene, what is the process for that?
I'm not sure I understand.
Sure. When you enter a scene as a scene agent and you are looking at one like this, do you just go into the room where this person is and just photograph that area and that's it?
No, we would photograph the entire place to document it. The lizard cue, because of the volume that it takes, and not necessarily information that would require the setup of a seer, then we will just stick with the crime scene photos for those particular rooms.
Okay. So I can have my paralegal approach with exhibits 6 through 138. You can look at those and let me know if you recognize what those photographs are.
Okay.
Do you recognize all those photos?
Yes, I do.
Do they accurately depict 5531 South Four Peaks Place, both before and during and after processing it?
Yes, through various stages of the investigation.
Your Honor, if I can have those shown to the defendant.
Yeah.
Now, Detective, when you guys are processing a scene, in addition to photographing it, are you also looking for items that you may want to collect and actually bring back with you?
That's correct.
Can you talk to us about what procedures you use to collect and impound physical items of evidence that you're going to take with you?
Sure. It depends on the type of physical evidence, what the circumstances of the offense are. So the type of collection method can vary, but inevitably we'll identify it first, then we'll document it with photographs, and then we will come up with a plan that we're going to recover the evidence. And typically on scenes, I like to work in a particular direction collecting evidence. Others have their own method, but that's the method I typically use. And then I work along with the crime scene tech, and we'll go through exactly what we talked about. We'll have the overall pictures taken. We identify things that we believe are going to be relevant, and then we'll, for identification purposes, we'll usually affix some form of evidence tag, a marker, things along those lines. Not all items are actually taken. Some are actually just documented because it's impractical to remove certain things, such as a slab of concrete or something like that. So depending on the situation. So after it's documented, first with photograph, placard, photographed again, and then we will collect it. If DNA is an issue, the crime scene tech will be the one that'll take care of the method for doing it, and they will take the protective measures, whether they do gloves, swapping gloves out, or they do face masks, depending upon the nature of the evidence. If it's super DNA critical, then we will pull all the precautions out. In this particular case, it was not DNA critical.
Do you still wear like gloves or anything like that when you are collecting these items of evidence?
Absolutely.
And are you using them and changing them to ensure, for instance, you don't transfer blood from one item onto another?
Right, and typically that's what our crime scene techs will do. We will direct the method or the order we're going to collect, and then we'll go through that. And they'll be the ones that'll photograph. They'll change the gloves, place it in the envelope. Typically it's a paper envelope. And then we'll move on to the next item and repeat the method.
So in this case, I'll put 5 back up if I can have the Elmo. Thank you. What was your process for how you wanted to go through this home in reviewing, collecting the evidence?
So for this particular method, I chose to work from the north towards the south, collecting as we went. Item 1 being the hat, which is at the north end of the room. And then it was kind of a toss-up between 2 and 3, so I just decided to go ahead and go for 2, and then we would work our way down from there.
Okay. And so we see in this diagram, north is up this direction.
It's to the left of the image, yes.
Okay. And so in the photographs that you're taking of these individual items, do you see those placards or something that shows a 1?
Yes.
Okay. Now you talk about in this that there are scenes where you may have difficulty collecting an item. In this scene, did you actually cut out some pieces of evidence to bring back with you?
Yes, and that's why you'll see numbers higher than what was originally in the room associated to those items.
When you are processing a scene, do you always know what may be relevant or not relevant?
Not always immediately.
Is that one of the reasons why the entire residence is photographed instead of just what appears to be relevant here in that one room?
Correct.
So that later, if anyone wants to look at another room, that's been documented adequately.
Right.
When you're going through a house, even though you walk in and you see Charles Vallow on the ground there, are you still checking all of the rooms to see if there could potentially be something of evidence there?
Well, certainly. I'm no stranger to not having all of the information initially when I show up. So I will go through and I'll look at the residence to see if there's anything that actually stands out immediately. And maybe I'll be able to ask a few questions of whoever's doing the interviews to see if there's any relevance to it.
So are you looking for instance, any bloody items?
That would be important.
Are you looking for any projectiles or anything else that might be not in this room?
Certainly. Bullets pass through walls.
Are you looking for any evidence that might be related to this individual, Charles Vallow, like wallets or things like that that might have been left somewhere in the house?
Yeah, anything that could properly identify who was or may have been present at the time.
Okay. And that's sort of all those photographs as well.
Correct.
When you photograph a scene, do you start at the outside of the home?
Yes, we will typically start at the outside and work our way in and carefully avoid the items of evidence that have been readily made identifiable.
So Exhibit 6 here, what are we seeing here?
So this would be the front of the residence. It faces west. And we're looking at the main entrance that's just off to the right of the closed single garage door, and that door is open.
Your Honor, we're going to have to object. We haven't agreed to admit any of these pictures that are being posted.
I'm sorry, I did show them. The state will move to admit exhibits, 6 through 38, or 138.
Any objection?
To some of them, I mean, they're very similar, and I don't think that they all need to be put on there.
So your objection is that some of them are cumulative?
Yes. Yes, Your
Right.
Honor.
Let me see them. What numbers?
Yeah, which number, sorry?
6 through what?
138.
Do you have specific ones that you believe are cumulative?
Yeah, I'd have to go back through to get them specifically. I have some.
Well, let me browse them. All right. While I've reviewed exhibits 6 through 138, while many of the exhibits show multiple pictures of the same items, there's no two pictures that are the same. They show different angles, different distances, different perspectives, and in some cases, the item as it was found as opposed to someone picking it up and showing it from a different angle. So they're somewhat cumulative, but the court will admit those exhibits. They may help assist the jury in visualizing the scene and determining where things were at the scene.
So we had talked about Exhibit 6 being the front of the house. The door that you were talking about there, is that the door we saw in the lizard queue that was in that front room?
Yes, that's the double front main door.
Exhibit 7 and 8, was that to document a vehicle that was there?
Yes, again, to try to do overalls of the scene to show how it was when we got there.
At that time, did you know whose vehicle that was?
I did not have the opportunity, nor did I run the license plate of it, but it was documented, and I believe later on it was learned.
Okay, thank you. But not something you were responsible for?
Correct.
When we get to Exhibit 9 and then 10, is this sort of coming up to, and I'm going to pull this back a little.
Yes, that's approaching closer to the door.
11, which way are we looking as we enter the door here on 11?
So you would be looking to the northeast, northeast.
And you had talked about in a diagram a hat. Is that sort of what we see here?
Correct.
Okay. Is Exhibit 12 sort of looking the opposite way from that sort of vantage point?
Correct.
Or south?
South, southeast, yeah.
And does Exhibit 13 show us what the front entryway looks like?
Correct. So this image would have been taken from the northeast corner of the main room there.
We can see in this then the hat with the placard of 1.
Correct.
So when we are looking at your diagram, Exhibit 5, and we see the 1, that's what that's referring to.
Correct.
Exhibit 14, can you tell us our perspective of what we're looking at here?
So you're standing in roughly the northwest corner of the room, just down from the entryway, and you're looking south.
So we start to see some of those white cards there. Is this before you have added in the yellow placards?
Correct. This would have been part of the overall photographic effort.
So when we're looking at this house, and I'm going to put up Exhibit 15, Can you describe for us this wall here, sort of, can you go all the way around that?
So that wall with the mirror itself is blocking where the kitchen is. There's an entrance to the kitchen to the right of that wall. And again, you could get to the kitchen through the left opening as well, but I think there's also like a family room by that area.
Okay. But it's open, one could walk through either of these ways and come around back out the opposite door?
Yes.
Okay. So Exhibit 16, we see Charles as he lay when fire has left him at this point.
Correct.
So the items we see on him, we've heard of them cutting his shirt and things like that. This is you documenting how he was when you started to come into the scene,
Correct.
after fire's already treated him and determined he was deceased.
Yes.
Over here, we start to see an area. What is right over there?
So just past that most southern index card is a hallway that extends to a bathroom and I believe at least 2 bedrooms.
Looking sort of to the north, what is this hallway here?
So now we're just looking north past the entryway. You can see the hat in the right part of the image there, and that would lead up to the master bedroom garage.
Okay. When you are looking at a scene like this where you have a shooter, are you wanting to document all the different views of the items and the victim where they lay in the scene?
Yes, it's important to establish where things were at when we found them.
Okay. Now, are you able to tell us, for instance, if a casing rolled or a bullet rolled as fire is there or initial officers coming through? Yourself?
Having not been present to see it, I would not be able to tell you if any item happened to have been manipulated.
Okay. Does 19 show us part of that hallway that we're talking about to the bedrooms?
Yes, it does.
And then right next to it, would that be the sort of doorway into the kitchen?
Correct. Past this mirror on the left would be where the wall rounds a little bit and leads to the kitchen.
So Exhibit 21 here, we see this hat. Why, in 22, that you marked as number 1, why do you collect something like that?
The indications to me, initial assessment, was that there was some kind of a struggle that took place. And it was unknown at the time who the hat belonged to. So it was decided that this could be important.
Are you given more than one chance to go through a house and try to collect evidence, or is it sort of a one-time shot?
Usually it's a one-time shot.
So if you aren't sure if something is relevant, do you collect it?
Yes.
So that later, if you determine it is, you have it?
Correct.
And if you determine it's not, then no harm, no foul?
Well, I don't know about no foul, but yeah.
So in this case, did you know whose hat that was?
I did not.
Okay. I'm going to put up 15 first. In the diagram, we had seen a number over in this area. What was that?
The item should be marking the baseboard, and there is a bullet strike in the baseboard.
All right, I'm putting up 23 here, and then I'm going to put up 24. What are we looking at here?
So what you're looking at is the actual bullet strike where it peeled away a portion of the baseboard, but remained embedded in the baseboard.
So I'm going to put up, as we kind of go closer, 24, 25, 26. Did you eventually show in 27 that you guys pulled back some of that board to get to show what was embedded in there?
Correct. And at some point, we were needing to recover that projectile.
Okay. And so in 28, does this reflect, now you've kind of photographed what it looked like when you first saw it, and then as you peeled it back and the actual bullet or projectile that was removed from there?
Correct.
All right. And 29, show that bullet from a different angle?
Yes.
When you were looking at this, and I'm going to put 30 and 31, was there actually some sort of white paint transfer on part of that?
There's a little bit of transfer of material to the nose of the bullet, yes.
If I can have my paralegal approach with 243 and 245, or sorry, 243 and 235. Detective, do you recognize what those are?
Yes, I do.
What are those?
This would be the section of baseboard that we removed from the wall, as well as the projectile that we had removed from the baseboard.
Okay, I'm going to put up 34 here. Does that show sort of after you pulled out that section of that baseboard?
Yes, after it was cut out.
Okay. And then it's the projectile that you recovered in there? From that location, the other exhibit?
The other exhibit is the projectile that was recovered from there, yes.
State will move to admit 243 and 235.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
You said 243 and 245?
35.
Oh.
243 and 235.
It's ordered to make 243 and 235.
If I can have my paralegal go retrieve that. So, let me put up, to give us again a different perspective, 17 here. We've talked about, as you're kind of working your way down, you told us you started with the hat, then you went over to the baseboard, and then you went back to the west wall.
Yes.
And so we see in this photograph, Exhibit 17, what you have marked as item 3. What was that?
That was the baseball bat.
I'm going to show Exhibit 35. Is that a closer up of that bat?
Yes, it is.
Were photographs taken of the sort of edge of the bat itself?
The fat edge, I guess.
The fat edge.
Sure.
It's
I don't
colored
know
bat.
nomenclature of the bat, so yeah.
Not the handle. How's that?
Yes.
When you were looking at this, were you looking for any blood? And I'm going to put up 37, 38, 39, or any biological material?
We were looking for visible evidence, yes.
Okay. Did you observe any yourself?
I did not.
Did the edge look pristine and clean to you, visibly?
Visibly, I did not see any sort of biological evidence on it.
Did you note any biological evidence anywhere on the bat that was visible to you?
I did not.
If my paralegal can approach with 249. Do you recognize what 249 is?
Yes, I do.
And is that the bat that we have seen in these photos marked as item number 2 that we see here in Exhibit 35?
Yes.
State will move to admit 249, Your Honor.
Any objection? 248 and 249 are admitted.
So that was item number 3. I'm going to put up Exhibit 40. Do we see a placard there for number 4?
Yes.
And what was item number 4? And I'm going to put up Exhibit 42 here.
It is a full metal jacket projectile.
And in 43, does that show a different angle of that projectile?
Yes.
So this projectile was recovered to the east, maybe northeast of Charles Vallow?
Yes.
And was there any visible damage to this projectile?
There was some deformation to the projectile.
If I can have my paralegal approach with 239. Do you recognize 239?
Yes, I do.
And what is 239?
This would be what's identified in the picture as item number 4, the projectile that was found close to the body.
State will move to admit 239.
Objection.
No objection.
239's admitted.
here?
So there was, again, another bag, and more specifically, there was a pistol that was laying on the floor.
We start with 72 here. Was that just like a garbage bag with some clothes in it?
Yes.
So of more relevance to you was what was next to it?
Correct.
What did you find there? What is this orange thing there? And we see a whole lot of placard numbers.
Right. So the placard numbers are obviously identifying particular items that are going to be seized as evidence. That we have the orange bag with what appears to be a gun box inside, and then we have the pistol. And the 3 placards next to the pistol are specific for the pistol itself, the magazine from the pistol, and potentially the chambered round in the pistol.
Okay. So 74, is that a close-up of that pistol?
It is.
What kind of pistol was that?
Pardon?
What caliber was it?
It's a .45.
Is that the same caliber as the casings that you had found in the front room next to Charles?
Yes.
Does this show another angle of that pistol in 75?
Yes, looking at the top of the pistol.
When the pistol, as we see, is picked up in 76, the individual's wearing gloves. Why is that?
Again, to help preserve the evidence, in the event that DNA were to need to be done, we could articulate that we did not touch it with our bare hands to impart our DNA onto it.
Are you visually looking at this gun to see, and this is 77, if there is any visible biological evidence, blood on this gun?
Yes, we do look at them to help determine that.
And did you observe any biological evidence, any blood, or what appeared to be blood, on this handgun?
No, ma'am.
If you had observed that, would you have noted it and photographed it and documented it?
Yes.
Now, when you got this gun, was it loaded?
Yes.
And in 78 and 79, is that photographs of the magazine in the gun?
Correct.
So when we talk about the magazine, I'm going to go back to showing Exhibit 76. Where is that in this picture?
So you can see the base of the magazine at the bottom of the grip, close to what would be the individual's left thumb. There's that black piece of plastic that extends horizontally across the base of the grip.
And so that's the magazine that you then took out that we see in 79.
Correct.
Okay. And why is the magazine removed?
Well, we have to make the weapon safe, and that's the first step in making it safe, is to remove any more source of ammunition that could feed into it.
Was there a cartridge or a live round in the chamber?
Yes.
So how do you make that safe then?
Well, the only way you can is to manipulate the slide to force the extractor to pull the cartridge out, and the ejector kicks the cartridge out.
Okay. Also in this photo, there was this orange bag, and you had told us that inside of it, we can kind of see the corner here. We see it better in 82. Did you remove an item from that orange bag?
Yes.
And I'm going to show 83, 84. What is that we see there?
That is a gun box that is consistent with the firearm that was laying on the floor.
So consistent with the .45 caliber handgun.
Correct.
And that was inside this orange bag. Was there any live rounds, and I'm going to show you Exhibit 85, also in that orange bag?
Yes.
And a closer up of that, was that another .45 caliber round?
It is.
And so when we say it was live, it hadn't been fired yet.
Yeah, cartridge has not been fired.
I'm going to start then by having my paralegal can take up Exhibits 237 and 246. You can approach them with 237 and 246. Do you recognize 237 and 246?
Yes.
And is that the gun and the magazine that we see here in Exhibit 76?
It is.
The gun that was found in that pink room?
Correct.
State will move to admit 237 and 246.
Any objection?
Is Mr. Coons saying that he didn't take those, but he recognizes them from being in evidence? Is that correct?
I think he testified he recognizes them to be the same items from the scene.
No objection.
237 and
246.
237 and 246 are admitted.
Now I have my paralegal approach with 247, 248, and 236. Sorry. Do you recognize 247, 248, and 236?
Yes, I do.
And are those what we saw in Exhibit 83, the gun case, as well as in 73, the orange bag that the gun case was in? And hold on. What we see in 85, the single live round that was found inside that bag.
Correct.
State will move to admit 247, 248, and 236.
Any objection?
Just a foundation, Your Honor. If he could give a serial number or something that could authenticate those.
Well, he testified that those were the items that he recovered from the scene, so I guess you can question him about that on cross. Give me the numbers again.
247, 248, and 236.
Those items are admitted.
I'm going to show you, as you continued sort of in this hallway, Exhibit 88. Do you, can you put us into perspective of where that is? I'm going to put 19 sort of back up. Where is what we see, this room with the blue on it, Exhibit 88?
So those two doorways would be on the south side of the hallway that leads up to the pink or maroon room. Specifically, the blue one would be the most southwestern bedroom of the home, and then the other doorways to the hall bathroom.
Okay. So again, did you go into room, this blue room, and look for any potential items of evidence.
Yes.
So in the room with the sort of child themes on it, did you find anything bloody in there?
No, ma'am.
Any ammunition in there?
No.
In the pink room, we saw the gun. Did you look in the floor of that room to see if there was any blood drops in the pink room?
Yes.
So I'm going to go back 1 second to 87. So on this floor and the bed and around here, did you notice any blood in that room?
No.
No blood swiped across a wall?
No.
No blood on that orange case?
The orange bag?
Correct.
No.
No blood on the black case for the gun?
No.
Or the extra magazines that were in there, any blood on those?
No. None seen.
Okay. So then in the blue room, did you do the same sort of thing? Look to see if there was any bloody clothing, any blood swipes, any blood drops, that sort of thing in there?
Correct. No items of bloody anything was discovered in there.
Okay. And nothing on the floor either?
Correct.
When we go to 92, you said that was the hall bathroom next to it?
Yes.
Do we see that in 93 and 94 here?
Yes.
Did you look in everything, like even the sinks, to see if you saw blood there?
Yes.
Along the countertop to see if you saw blood there?
Correct.
Did you note any bloody items, any that was anywhere in that bathroom?
I did not.
When you were walking down that hallway to those rooms, did you look on the floor there to see if there were any blood drops or blood trails or swipes of blood on the wall?
Yes.
Did you observe any there?
No.
So 98 here, can you put us in perspective of what we're seeing?
So this would be towards the feet of the body, where the hall splits to the kitchen and then to the bedrooms that we were just discussing.
Okay. 99, is this like a lanyard that was hanging on the wall there?
Yes.
So wasn't knocked off or anything?
No, it's where we found it.
And as you go through 99 there, is that how you entered, one of the ways you could enter into the kitchen?
Correct.
And is this sort of a view of that?
Yes.
So in the kitchen, did you look on the floor there to see if there were any blood drops?
Yes.
Along the cabinets to see if there were blood drops there?
Yes.
When you got to the sink, I'm going to put exhibit 103 and then 104. Did you observe a small amount of what appeared to be blood on the faucet itself?
Yes.
Did you look sort of as well in the sink itself to see if there was any blood there?
Yes.
Did you observe any there?
Did not see any visible blood.
Now, when you're going through the house and looking to see if you note any bloody items or any other items of evidence, are you looking in things like trash cans?
Yes.
So was this a trash can in the kitchen, for instance?
Yes.
And did you note any bloody rags or towels or anything thrown in there?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You said that there was also sort of a living area in there.
Correct.
I'm going to put up exhibit 112 to get a better perspective of that. So is this the doorway we were talking about?
Yes.
And so the kitchen here opens up into the living room.
Correct.
Did you look through that area to see if you saw any blood on the floors?
Yes.
Did you observe any?
No.
Did you look through that area to see if there was any blood on any of the furniture or walls or anything like that?
Yes.
Did you observe any of that?
No.
In exhibit 111, Where does this doorway lead?
That leads back out to the mirrored room, the main room where the body is.
So when we were talking about the two doorways, one sort of directly into the kitchen and the other sort of more towards the end of the kitchen living area.
Yes.
This is what you were talking about.
Correct.
And in Exhibit 113, can we see sort of both of those doorways?
Yes.
Okay. And 114, a overall perspective of that.
Another perspective of it, yes.
So throughout this whole area, again, you're looking for anything that might be relevant because you have one chance to document it, correct?
Correct.
When we talk about 115 and we talked about the original layout of the house, is this that front entrance area again?
Yes, it is.
And where are we looking in this perspective?
So you were looking in a north direction.
Where does that head towards?
It heads towards the garage, the master bedroom, and I believe a room that could double as an office.
Okay. So when we go along this wall here that we see in 115, 116, 117, is this the sort of what we would call office or playroom?
Yes.
Okay. Did you look through there, see anything bloody in there?
We looked and found nothing.
Was there a powder room in this area?
Yes,
And did you search that as well?
it was.
And again, you're looking in sinks and in trash cans?
Correct.
And did you observe in 121, 122, the trash can and toilet and sink, any bloody items there?
No,
Was there a laundry room in this area?
there was.
And I'm putting up 123 and 124. Did you look through the laundry area to see if you saw any bloody items in here?
It was looked through, yes.
So although there's some clothing and some folded towels, none of those had blood evidence on them.
Nothing that stood out with blood evidence, no.
And then again, even looking in the trash cans that we see in 126 and 127,
Correct.
One 128, are we now heading into the master bedroom?
Yes,
129, was there sort of an office set up in there as well, 130?
correct.
And are you, again, looking through the floor, looking everywhere for any items of evidence?
Correct. Anything to indicate that what happened in the other room transferred into this.
Okay. Or any cleanup from after it?
Correct.
As you went through this, did you do the same sort of thing, looking through the floor and walls, 132, 133, for any blood evidence?
Correct.
Did you observe any in the bedroom?
No.
Do you go into the master bathroom and check there as well?
Yes.
The 134, 135. Did you observe any evidence, blood evidence in the master bathroom?
It did not.
And again, checking even the toilet itself as well as the trash can
Yes.
that we see in 137 and 138. So other than the one drop or whatever smear of blood on the kitchen faucet, did you see any other blood evidence at the scene?
No.
Let me put that in a different way, other than what was around Charles's remains.
Correct. No trails, no swipes, nothing that other than the sink faucet in the kitchen and the area where the body was.
Okay. So you told us that you cleaned up the blood there and you saw that defect in the ground that was consistent, or in the flooring, that was consistent with a bullet strike, correct?
Correct.
When you were looking at this scene, actually I'm going to start with 15, did you note injuries to Charles Vallow himself?
Yes.
On the front of him, where did you note the gunshot wounds to him?
Immediately before the medical examiner arrived, the only visible gunshot wound was in the lower left abdomen area.
Did you learn one was in the chest underneath some of the medical debris?
Yes.
When you are looking at this scene, are you able to utilize part of your shooting reconstruction training to try to determine any type of trajectory, or if anything is consistent with trajectory based upon the scene itself, items that you are able to view there?
I do try to apply my knowledge of that to the scenes as I go to them and go through them, and with whatever evidence or information comes directly back to me.
Are you relying on, for instance, the location of Mr. Vallow?
That's part of it.
Are you relying on the location of the casings?
That's another part of it. Not a major part, but it is another part.
Are you relying on the location of the projectiles?
Yes.
When the medical examiner came, were you also able to see exit wounds on Mr. Vallow?
Yes, in conjunction with also the chest wound.
Okay. So when the medical examiner came, you saw a second injury to the front side of him.
Correct.
And where was that approximately?
In the sternum.
So for us, somewhere in...
About the center, maybe roughly the center of the chest.
Okay. So and the other one you said was in the abdomen.
Yes.
When the medical examiner was there, where did you observe other gunshot wounds on his back?
I observed another one that would have been just to the left of the spine, and then another one that would have been by the left shoulder blade scapula area.
Okay. Now, given the number of casings, did you start with an idea that there might be two shots?
Yes.
Given the number of wounds on Mr. Vallow, did that appear consistent with that theory?
Very much so.
So 2 entrances, 2 exits?
Yes.
When you saw the projectile that you recovered that we see in Exhibit 20 on the side over here that entered into that baseboard, given the injuries to Mr. Vallow and the projectiles and the location of this, were you able to determine any consistencies of where the shooter may have been when that occurred?
Approximate location, yes.
And how did you do that?
Based on the wounds to Mr. Vallow, the location of where the projectile had ended up, and where the casings were, the working theory at that point was that the firearm ejected the casings to the right, striking the wall where that has the curve there, and bounced back towards the west wall. The projectile would have continued on a relatively straight path and embedded itself in the baseboard at the other end of the room.
So would that have put the shooter somewhere in this area?
Yes.
And so that, to you, seemed consistent with one of the shots having gone through him and ended up what we see in Exhibit 20 over here in the baseboard, Mr. Vallow being somewhere over in this area.
Correct.
Okay. Given the information that you obtained, let me ask you this. Given the information that you saw at the scene there, again, with the casings, the injuries to Mr. Vallow, both to the abdomen and the shoulder, and then after you cleaned up the blood, the damage to the floor underneath the location of his left shoulder, were you able at that point to start, have any concept or have an idea of what would be consistent with where the shooter may have been and where Mr. Vallow may have been for that shot?
Yes.
What did you base that on?
Again, a lot of the factors that have been discussed, the location of the projectile item number 4, the defect in the floor that was underneath him, the location of the second casing. It was all consistent with the shooter having been at the feet, not necessarily right upon the feet of Mr. Vallow, but in that direction, close enough so that the projectile could, again, bounce off that wall and land on the west wall.
The projectile or the?
Or the casing, sorry.
When you were looking at this scene, I'm going to put 56 up. Obviously, there's no exact, I'm going to move Mr. Vallow this way just to kind of be looking the same direction. Did this defect appear to be in the area of Mr. Vallow's shoulder?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Vallow had been rolled a couple times by the time you cleaned that scene up.
Yes.
So you didn't like stick a rod through him there and see if that worked?
No, that would be inappropriate.
Are you even allowed to do that?
No.
Does a medical examiner frown on that?
Yes, the body is theirs by law.
So you're basically able to look at where he was located and say that that is consistent with being underneath his left shoulder.
Yes, and we did take measurements of the body before it was moved.
All right. So when you measured where the body was and then you cleaned up that blood and measured where that projectile divot was that consistent with where his left shoulder was?
Yes.
Given that information that you had at that time, were you able to draw any conclusions as to whether or not the evidence was consistent with Charles Vallow being laying on the ground when he was shot?
Very much so in the position that you see him. He was the second shot that entered the abdomen would have been where he was lying.
Did you attend the autopsy itself?
I did.
And when you were at can you tell us what it means when you attend an autopsy as a detective?
So as a detective, we go to the medical examiner on the date that they're going to do the autopsy. There is the autopsy suite itself where the doctors and technicians work with the bodies. Observers will be outside of that suite but able to communicate with the staff. There's a window where we can see everything that's going on. And like I said, we can communicate either by a phone that's on the wall or they'll come around and talk with us. We have the ability to observe everything that transpires. There's even a camera overhead that we can manipulate to get a different view. Say the feet are towards us, we can get the camera to look at when they're working on the head or something like that.
When you were at the medical examiner's office as they were performing the autopsy, did you learn additional evidence that helped support your opinion as to whether or not Mr. Vallow was laying on the ground when he was shot in the abdomen and the bullet exited his left shoulder?
Yes.
What was that additional evidence that you considered when reaching this opinion?
Well, I had asked for specific things for the doctor to include in the examination that would help me with rendering that information. One of them was to measure the location of the bullet strikes on the body, both the entry and the exits. And then I also asked for the use of trajectory rods, if it was available, to help demonstrate the angles of the shots so that I could visibly see everything. They have the unique experience of being able to see the actual damage to the organs as it's passing through. It's not all super clear for me for that part, so the trajectory rods help out a lot.
Having observed the location of the injuries, that measurement, the trajectory rods, did that further support or go against your opinion that Charles Vallow was laying on the ground when he was shot in the abdomen?
It further supported it.
in your opinion then, can you list all the factors that you rely upon to determine that, or to reach your opinion that Charles Vallow was laying on the floor when he was shot in the abdomen and the shot exited his left shoulder?
The consistencies of a lot of the evidence that I had personally seen. The trajectory rods helped establish that alone, where it shows the entry into the lower left abdomen and then the exit out through the left shoulder blade area. The divot in the floor that was located underneath the body, the projectile that had expended the rest of its energy coming from underneath the body and coming to rest close to the body. There was a lack of stippling that was visible, meaning unburned powder or gunshot residue actually on the skin or clothing that we could identify. So that gave us the fact that the shooter was a bit of a ways away from the body, but the body was firmly on the floor at the time of the shot. There's just no way for the impact on the floor and the exit of the body to articulate anything else with that angle.
After you, let me ask you this. Do you recall how long you were at the scene that day?
I got there about 9 or a little after, and I think we left sometime between 1600 and 1630,
What's that in normal people time?
4 to 4:30 in the afternoon.
Did that sort of end your involvement in processing this whole scene?
The Four Peaks scene, yes.
Your Honor, the state has no other questions for this witness.
All right, cross-examination?
Your Honor, can I have a few minutes to defer with my advisory council? before
Briefly. Yep, briefly. All right, I need to excuse the jury for just a couple minutes to resolve something. It should only take a few minutes. We'll have you wait in the jury room, and then we'll continue.